What's up, everyone? By now, you know we have partnered with the great people from Kutt, the social betting platform. Kutt is a peer-to-peer betting platform that allows you to bet directly against all your buds and all the other Canes fans out there. That's right. You can join us on the Real Ones Canes podcast, aka Believe Miami, on Kutt today and bet directly against me, against Brandon, against anybody on your favorite sports, entertainment, pop culture, politics, whatever you want. Kutt makes it so easy. Kutt is the ultimate put your money where your mouth is platform, and it's legal right here in Florida and probably where you are too. Be sure to follow at CuttBet on all your social media channels and download the app via the App Store or at Kutt.com. Use code BELIEVE, B-L-E-A-V, Miami. That's BELIEVE Miami for a 10% deposit bonus. It's Kutt, and it's freaking awesome. What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Real One Canes podcast. I'm the Beast, Brian London. My co-host is Brandon O'Doy. Go ahead and follow us on all of the socials. You can follow Brandon at Brandon_O'Doy. Follow myself at Miami Radio Beast. And do us a favor, if you're listening to this, wherever you're listening to this, go subscribe to the podcast, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Amazon, Spotify. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, thank you, but also go subscribe to the audio podcast, right? That's a good thing. Brandon, it is transfer portal madness as the second portal window is open. Had a couple surprise entries into the portal for the University of Miami on the outgoing side of things, and caught some people by surprise. I don't know if it caught you by surprise, but Jaden Wayne, Jared Harrison Hunt, among those Miami Hurricanes that have jumped into the portal lately.
Yeah, definitely, Beast. It's one of those situations where you got guys that are going into the portal and they're making room for guys that this Hurricane program feel like they can be a little bit more of an asset. It's never a thing that fans want to hear when you see guys that are sort of fan favorites, and it looks as if you're losing a very talented roster and you're losing top quality recruits, guys who have depth. But there is a plan, and it will be made manifest to everyone, possibly even after this weekend. Because, Beach, you have to understand, the team that played last year in Coral Gables went 7 and the season. And so at the end of the day, you do not want to be too beholden to people in the locker room. And I know way more than I can talk about, but I'll just say this. Coaches know when guys have to go. It's either a culture fit, it's either you make too much money NIL and you ain't producing to the money you make, or it's a scenario where we mis-scouted you. We thought you were better than you were. You've proven not to be able to, kick in these key areas. And if we don't get rid of you, they're going to get rid of us. And so that's really the bottom line here, because this is year 3. This is a crop or go home year, and I hate to be explicit, but it's one of those situations where there's just not much more time to waste. And how much more time, well, I would say how many more resources can be poured into a program that really has underperformed based on the standards of the last 15 years. And that's not even been up to par based on, what you'd like to see.
So let me ask you a question. I think there's been 23 guys that have entered the portal from the University of Miami, 20-something guys, since the season ended, since the regular season ended. Whether it be the first window, the second window, that's the total. Is there anyone on there that completely surprises you, or in your conversations, do you think there's anyone on there that has surprised anyone that's working at the U that they just weren't ready for?
I think Kobe Young was a surprise.
Okay.
And I think that if you're a fan or if you're someone who likes Hurricane football, you don't like to see a Henry Parrish walk with the experience that he has. But then if you go out and get a Damian, you go out and get a Martinez, you know what I mean? Is it that big of a loss? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
So
you have to look at these moves and see. And this is an overall point that I want to make, and I want this to be the baseline for everything I discussed regarding portal additions, etc. College football is a year-to-year business. This is the new NFL. Every year the team's going to be different. If you can have some continuity from guys going from freshman to sophomore and junior, then the better off you are as a program. But you cannot count on guys being in place from year to year. Everything is a 1 year, and you can't get to that year beast until the second portal window is over. So, like when you're like, hey, let's break down, spring. Let's go down schedules and stuff. Man, we don't even know who's going to be on this team. I mean, we could have been talking about. Look at how much time we would have wasted spending time talking about Jared Harrison Hunt, talking about Wayne. We spend time, discussing these guys, and they walk right out the door. So you don't
y-
even know who you have until the fall.
yeah, it's so hard to wrap your mind around that this is the new college football. Not only with the portal, but with the NIL mixed in, because money is definitely a factor with all of these moves, outgoing and income.
Let me tell you something. And I advise recruits and college football guys on my Twitter account. It's one of the things I do. You actually have to come here and pay to get my opinion on the Hurricanes. But the reality of the situation is this: if you're making a lot of money, you better be producing. Because if you're not, they're gonna find a way to get rid of you.
Yeah, I mean, it just look, man. People call college football the new NFL, and that's a way that it is just like the NFL, because the NFL, there's not too many guaranteed contracts. You are year to year, and if you don't produce, you're going to be on the street looking for a new job, and that is just the harsh reality of that league. And now it is the harsh reality of college football.
And maybe not on the streets, but they're gonna say to you, look, we can't sign you again for the money that you made. And there have been guys that have renegotiated for less. But that's not something I don't know about you, Bees. I don't want to take less money to do the same job.
No.
You know what I mean? And very few people do. So, it's one of those sticky situations that's still being kind of worked out. But there are a few of these departures that are financially related. We cannot get into the details of that, but everybody ain't leaving because, they weren't wanted. Is they make too much money and they ain't producing to the money they make.
Well, I think one of the things we can just shout out in general terms without talking about specific guys, what you're going to face and what the University of Miami and every other college out there is facing is, right, like the rates go up. So new guys, for this year, freshmen, whatever, are going to come in at one, rate on an NIL, and maybe a guy that's a 2-year veteran didn't come in under the same rate. And now there's a little bit of uneasiness there because a guy that's a veteran is making less than a new guy, and that causes some tension. I feel like that's something that that coaches are going to have to deal with throughout the landscape of college football.
Yeah, that was the Kobe Young situation. And see, this is a very, very difficult, place to navigate because there's no roadmap for this. How do you keep kids from talking about things that they shouldn't? How do you keep kids from finding out what other kids are making? How do you explain to a kid that when you came in, you got what you deserved based on, what the market was at the time, but the market is changing every single day. And if we pay what we paid you, we wouldn't get this guy. And you're only going to be here for 1 more, 2 more years. This kid has 3, 4 more years left on his eligibility. So these are very difficult conversations. I mean, it used to be a situation where everybody at the University of Miami made in the neighborhood of about $45,000 to $50,000, and that was kind of what it was for pretty much everybody. And then you had a rare occasion where a guy was making 80, 100, or whatever the case may be. You're talking about like quarterbacks, big time receivers, et cetera, like that. Now the money is in the millions for some kids. So it's one of those situations where it's like, there is a completely new day. There's a completely new expectation. I shout out to everybody down there who deals with NIL and who manages kids' expectations. there are a lot of players who make more than their position coach. I mean, that is difficult territory to deal with. And it's one of those situations where if you are a coach or you're a general manager or you're someone in recruiting and you're a parent of a student athlete, you got difficult choices to make. But I can tell you this: the balance of what you make and what you produce better be there, because I'm telling you, there are too many reasons to try to figure out a way to find a new home. And you know what it looks like. They start playing walk-ons in front of you. You start running with the threes and running with the scout team. And, they just play on your psyche. And then after a while, you've had enough and you go have that conversation and you say, Coach, I think I need to find a new home. And the coach says, hey man, I'm not gonna argue with that. That might, if that's what you feel like you need to do, son, then you go out there and you do that. And then that's how you know, baby, they got rid of you. You know what I mean? It's not adversarial. It's insinuated. It's suggested. It's sort of presented. You know what I mean? One day you come in, you know what I mean? I want to wear a number, blah blah blah. Next thing you know, hey, that number is not available for you. You know what I mean? It manifests itself in so many different ways, Beast. And this is the new college football. And everybody wanted NIL. Everybody wanted these players to get what they were worth. That's fine. It does come with a few consequences. But it's the same in my job and your job. If we underperform, hey, they're going to be having a conversation with us. They're going to have one conversation. They're going to say, hey, listen, um, not kind of feeling, what you bring to the table. We're looking to go in a new direction. And when anybody's talking about new direction, most likely, if you've already been there, you're not involved in the new direction. So I ain't going to say this is the new Miami, but I will say this is and this may transition into what we talk about next. This hurricane program under Mario Cristobal is pushing all of the chips into the center of the table. And you got to like it the gangster part of me loves this. I mean, this is like, man, hey, listen, I don't care who's around. I mean, we got one running back. That's fine. Let's get five. And let's let the best guy go out there and run. That guy gets hurt, so what? See you in the locker room. Let's get it out there and let's play ball. You know what I mean? And if you have the resources to do it, I mean, I can tell you these guys are invested in this. And that's cool. But I'm gonna tell you, when you got people putting everything in it, there's gonna be a lot of stress. If any Hurricane kids are listening to this, I doubt they listen to our podcast players. But if you're a parent of a player, you better tell your son, this ain't the year to fool around. This ain't the year to be late to meetings. This ain't the year to not be watching film. This ain't the year to show up late to practice, not be doing well in the classroom. This is not that year. This is not that time. These guys are for real. And we say in the church, like, wherever your treasure is, your heart will be also. If I got a lot of money in my kids' school, and these teachers are always wondering, why do you want your kids to be on honor roll? Because I pay a lot of money for them to go there. If they were going to public school and it was on the government and my tax dollars, that's fine. But I'm invested because I'm putting my money in it and I want to see what's going on in this school. So when we get bad grades at home, we got to have a meeting. We got to talk about it. And that's what's going on down at Coral Gables. And a lot of people don't like that, Beast. But you're not going to be able to hold on to everybody. Some got to stay, some got to go. But you better produce because you're going to be on that road.
I think it was in our conversations back and forth on text that one of us, I think it was you, I'm going to give you credit for this, straight out just put the cream rises to the top. That's the mentality in this industry right now, and with the Miami Hurricanes, the cream will rise to the top. And guess what? If you aren't part of the cream that's rising to the top, you may be looking for another home.
And to some extent, it's fair. I mean, look at what Coach Cristobal has asked this university to do. They said, "Look, I've got the keys to the castle. I know how to get this done, but you guys aren't investing enough. You got to take care of me. You got to take care of my family. You got to come into this facility. You got to put whatever needs to be done around here in place. You got to go to this staff. You got to get them whatever it is they need financially so they can be all in. You got to come to these kids. It's NIL. You got to step up to the plate. You can't be last. You got to be near the top. And you got to do these things on a consistent basis. And we got to have the tools to win. And they say, okay, coach, we believe in you. You can take us to the promised land. And they've invested in him and his program in ways that we have just not seen in the last 20 years. We just not seen it. And so how long does that happen? You see what I'm saying? And that's the deadline that's quietly not being talked about. Like, I don't believe in going to press conferences and asking Mario why he's getting rid of the fourth string quarterback and who and how. Like, that's irrelevant. What you need to understand is, what do you think you need? Why do you think you need it? And you're seeing, like, hey, more is more. Like, there's no conversation about money, but more money. Like, we don't want to risk anything here. We don't want to be down to our last quarterback. I mean, Florida State went 3 quarterbacks deep. If that happens at the University of Miami this year, you actually have a guy that's played in games. When can you have said that here? If we went 3 quarterbacks last year,
Never, never.
we would be. I mean, well, we kind of did.
Did,
We
yeah.
got down to our third. But I'm saying, you go back 2 years ago in that Athens. I mean, well, to be honest, if you think about it, Beast, the last 3 seasons we've gone 3 quarterbacks deep. Like, you literally have to have 3 capable quarterbacks. Look what Georgia just did. They go out and grab Jaden Rashada today to be a backup to Carson Beck. Because if something happens to Carson Beck, they need to be able to still contend for a championship. That means everybody who's a backup there now all of a sudden has to think about, what's my role here? Why am I here? They're bringing a guy who's only a true freshman in, and he's basically been there. He's starting his freshman spring semester there. He's going to start in the summer of his freshman year, going into his sophomore year. And I think he redshirted because he didn't play very much. But this is the new college football. Oregon just did the same thing with Dante Moore. They have a veteran in Dylan Gabriel coming back, which they got from Oklahoma. Let's bring in this freshman to back him up. And people are taking the roles because guess what? He's a well compensated backup quarterback. Miami has one of those too. I don't guess that Mr. Reese came down here from Albany, New York, on a pass, on a hometown discount. He got taken care of. And at the end of the day, that's what this is. This is an arms race. You know what I mean? And I don't want to quote Nevin Shapiro, but
Oh
hey,
no.
they got to go get that money. You know what I mean? That's how it goes down. You know what I mean? He's standing on business. Miami's standing on business right now. This is about getting paid. This is about bringing in talent. This is an arms race.
So in the next segment, I am going to go through some of the guys that are coming in this weekend or whatever, just so people know the names if they don't know them. We'll get to that. But when I asked Brandon before the show started, hey, do you have your transfer portal primer? He said, listen, man, it comes down to coaching, which is true at all sports, right? Like we're recording this on Thursday night just before the NFL draft. You're going to watch this Friday, Saturday, whenever you're going to watch this. So I'm just being honest with you when we are recording this, right? Before the NFL draft. So last night we watched the Miami Heat take out the Boston Celtics. How do they do that? Eric Spoelstra, the coach, drew up an amazing game plan. It comes down to coaching. You have to have great coaching. They can get all the players in the world. If they don't have a great offensive plan, great defensive plan, all that, none of this matters. So the question begs, right? Miami's going all in on this season and going all in on a player develop or bringing in the players, right? And roster management. The question is, if they get all the players and they have the quarterback in Cam Ward, is this team capable of doing big things next year from a coaching standpoint? And, I'm 50-50 on that question.
Well, I'm a much better coach when I got better players. I know that. I know Shannon Dawson's going to be a better OC. I know people are going to be starting talking about him like, man, should be a head coach because he's going to have a quarterback. He's going to have a heck of a quarterback. He's going to have a backup quarterback. And it looks like he's going to have a pretty good running back. And when Mark Fletcher comes back and Jordan Lau gets on campus, that room's going to look outstanding. You know what I mean? The receiver core is solid. You got Isaiah Horton, who had, he's the MVP of the spring, from my understanding. And at the end of the day, Xavier Restrepo is Xavier Restrepo, and Jacoby George can be special. And you're going to have some freshmen that have the opportunity to step up in the Josiah Trader and even a Nikar, somebody like that. The guy from Bishop Gorman at the tight end position, Isaiah Lofton, he gives you a dynamic threat that you haven't had at that position in quite a while. Your friend Arroyo is, he drew some praise in the offseason. And they might pick up another quarterback. And it looks like, Martinez is going to, he's already on campus as of Thursday afternoon. So the things that kind of get my eye are going after another defensive end. The kid from Tennessee, he's going to be visiting. You text me that. And then they really have their eyes focused on this defensive tackle guy from Michigan, Michigan State. And so if you get those trenches right and, there's a rotation, you get guys playing out of their mind. You get Bain coming back, Mesidor coming back. You strengthen up. Because at the end of the day, Harrison Hunt, he was depth. It wasn't like he was, I felt bad about losing Jafar Happy. To me, he was a bigger loss based on, what the production said. But you'd like to see maybe, a veteran linebacker come in who could spell Kiko Maigoa and be insurance for Wesley Bassett and those types of things. You still want to see somebody at the cornerback position. I still don't know who's going to replace Couch or if they're going to maybe change, the scheme. Because, again, now Guidry has somebody who's coached with him. And I got some background information. Like, Guidry's defense should see an uptick with Chevis Jackson in place. And I'm told they were together. Jackson was a GA at the time. Guidry was in place, and Jackson left, and Guidry's defense went down. So we should see some positive results, especially when there's a kinship in schematic, what we see. And there's nobody to help teach a defense than someone who was sort of groomed by it. So I'm looking forward to how that presents itself. But yeah, man, this thing is gonna get really, really intense. And it doesn't matter who these guys are that we pick up in the portal. It just matters about execution and going out. These are the big games for me. Florida State at home, right? Florida on the road, first game, right? You talked about coaching, so kind of a long way around getting to your answer. Florida on the road, game one. USF on the road, because that's trappy,
Very
trappy as you can get. Florida State at home, but you should be helped because you're going to have a national audience. The crowd's going to be insane. Like, you should get every advantage in that game because you get them at home. If you get them at home, you got to beat them. You know what I mean? Because they're breaking in a new quarterback, a guy that's coming, all the way across, the country.
Who did not have a good spring, by the way.
He didn't have a great spring, according to, people who cover that team. And, DJ's a guy that, he can be up and down. I've known DJ since he was in 8th grade. So it just depends. I wouldn't bet against him. But,
right.
The last time he was in the ACC, it didn't go very well. So these are the key games for me. It's just these 3 games. Everything else will kind of take care of itself. But it's Florida on the road, USF. It's Florida on the road, USF on the road, and Florida State at home. And then trappy. The second trappy version is Syracuse after Thanksgiving in Syracuse. It's gonna be cold. Yeah, you're in a dome, but you got a brand new staff up there. You got a brand new situation up there with a lot of guys that they're sneakily bringing into the portal. So those are sort of the games that I'm watching with regard to coaching. I think coaching is assisted by culture. And there are some culture guys being let go in this portal too. And we won't call any names, but some of these guys were not good teammates, showing up late to meetings, not getting it done in the classroom, bad workout habits, disrespectful and negative to coaches, arguing and fussing with coaches, doing these things late to class. Like, that doesn't work in a program that's, weeding things out and pay. You can't show up to class when they're paying you to be there and play on the football team. You can't do that. It's a profession. It's a job. You can't do that before NIL. So you especially can't do it now. And then you can't be combative and not want to work out and not want to do the extra things. Like, these are just no-nos in 2024. And so you will be shown the door in several halves.
And it goes without saying. And if fans are just now tuning in and picking up on this, where have you been? Mario Cristobal is a my way or the highway guy.
And I don't mind that, because guess what? When it's all on you and you're the guy that has to answer those silly questions in that room with all those reporters. Hey, man, if it's gonna be on me, you got to do it my way. And if you ain't gonna do it my way, because I'm the one that's gonna go down first.
Right.
They're not gonna mention you. They're not gonna say, Jacoby George, you got in trouble, and that's why you showed up late and you weren't at practice and you didn't catch the route. They're not gonna blame you. They're gonna blame me. I'm Mario Cristobal. It's gonna be me. That's the buck stopper. So I'm fine with that. I really am. But at the end of the day, you better hope you're getting buy-in, because if you're gonna be a my way or highway type of coach, you understand what I'm saying? Players better start drinking that Kool-Aid. Otherwise, like some others we've seen before.
Yeah, it's the highway. All right, we're going to take a break here on the Real Ones Canes podcast. On the other side, I'll go down the list. This is a big weekend in portal recruiting, and we'll see what we can run down the list and see what positions may or may not get filled with guys visiting this weekend. Brandon already kind of teased some of them. I know the biggest guy that they're kind of going after is already on campus, has already sent out a post of him with his feet up enjoying the sunshine. So that's the kind of thing I like to see. We'll do that on the other side. It is the Real Ones Canes podcast. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Real Ones Canes podcast. I'm the Beast, Brian London. My co-host, Brendan O'Doy. If you are listening to this podcast, please subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button and make a nice positive comment about the podcast. That helps others find the podcast. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, thank you. We appreciate that. Those numbers have gone up, skyrocketed. We appreciate you, but also go subscribe to the audio version of the podcast. And that way, when you're in the car, you can just hear Brandon's sexy voice as you're driving down the road. So that's what we want you to do. Hey, real quick, Brandon, before we get back to football and the transfer portal, big week for the University of Miami women's basketball team. The Cavinder twins have come back with their last year of eligibility. They kind of took last year off to do some other things in the world and all of that, but they are back, both of them. So that is good. Also, Miami getting a nice addition from Wichita State. So even though there's been a coaching change with the women's basketball program, good to see them with some positive momentum. Meanwhile, on the men's side, Norchad Omer gone. We got George is gone. We got Luca Poplar's gone. And I don't know if they even have a starting five for next year. So I don't know what's happening there. I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah, the men's basketball team is a disaster right now. There's no question about it. Unfortunately, the team wasn't very good, and all of the good parts are either going to the draft or getting in the portal. So that is not good. You're losing a lot of depth pieces. I'd leave it to Liam, our buddy, to really describe what's happening. And maybe if it gets really bad, we bring him back on. But I mean, yeah, they've got a lot of work to do. On the women's side, I really like these moves because you bring back, two of the more explosive members of that Elite 8 team from just a season ago in the Cavinder twins, and then you go and grab a nice scoring option out of Wichita State. And remember what I said, with this new women's basketball coach, she doesn't strike me as a recruiter. She doesn't strike me as someone who can embrace this new school style. But if you go out and get her players, if she's supposed to be this great ball coach, then that's how you do it. And that's exactly what it looks like Miami's doing. You going out and getting her talent. She's a great coach. Shoot, coach it up. And let's get back to the top. So the 3 shut you up Brandon O'Doy moves have been made. And all I can do is say, hey, I like it. Give me more. You know what I mean? And so, no, and it's no offense to Coach Trick, like, hey, we welcome you to the U or whatever, but, it's a different day and age. You know what I mean? And you got to have really, really good players. It takes a generational like talent or just a bunch of really good players to be good in women's basketball right now. You can't get it done with 1 or 2 guys like you used to could do. So you got to spend money, and it looks like that's what's happening.
Well, let me ask you this question. This will get us back into football. With the new model, transfer portal, NIL, all this stuff, in football, now this is not what's happening at UM. Mario Cristobal is as involved in the roster management, in the recruiting, in the portal. He is as involved as any head coach could possibly be. But could you succeed on the college football side with a coach that's just like, listen, I'm just going to be the old ball coach, X's and O's, that's my gig. All my assistants, the whole rest of the staff, they can work on get me the players. I'm just going to sit in my office and draw the plays up. Can that work anymore?
Gus Malzahn. It'll get you 7-8 games. That's what he does. He does not push recruiting. He does not. I mean, we'll see if he does better this year, but his staff, they are go-getters. That's Gus Malzahn. They right up the road, 3 hours away. And coach is a friend of mine. So, I mean, can it be done? He's doing it. But there are consequences. People want to talk to the head ball coach. Mario Cristobal is the lead recruiter for everybody important. If you're not hearing from Coach Cristobal, that's not good news when it comes to this team. He signs off. That's how it goes. Look, I like him. The guy doesn't sleep. He's relentless. You know what I mean? And here's the thing about Cristobal. This guy wants to win so bad. Like, he really, really wants to be the guy to bring Miami back. And it's frustrating when you see him trying as hard as he's trying and the results aren't there. I don't think he knew how bad this was. But it's like I've said every single time I've had the opportunity, Beast. This ain't a rebuild. This is a reconstruct. You know what I mean? Like, new foundation. Yeah, you got some history. It's like being in a good neighborhood. You know what I mean? But that house got blown away by the hurricane, no pun intended. So you got to start from scratch. The foundation is gone. You got to rip that up. You got to put everything back down where it used to be. You're still in a good neighborhood. You got 5 national championships. You got, like, memories. You know what I mean? You got, a gated community. But, hey, man, you got to build that house again. Because it ain't like you just the roof came off or you missing a shutter here or there. No, brother. You got to build that thing up from the bottom. Because the team and the program that won those 5 natties, they're gone. They're long gone. And these babies that are born, they were not around for that. They have never seen Miami on top.
And the way that those 5 national championship teams were built, that doesn't
be done anymore.
That doesn't exist anymore.
That way is gone. Saban created a different way and a different paradigm. And even the great Nick Saban had to say, you know what? I can't handle this. I'm out of here. And I'm telling you, man, this is going to humble some coaches, some guys who are good at coaching football, and they are moving on. So it's on and popping in college football. Only the strong will survive. We got a great coach, a real tenacity, feel energetic, former Kane. He checks every box. And, hey, coach has his flaws. We all do. The in-game stuff, hey, you recruit your way out of it. We're going to be up by 20 points. If we fail to call a timeout or take a knee, so what? We still beat you by 10 points. You know what I mean? And that's maybe how you have to look at it. So I'm kind of nervous, like, man, do y'all have the money to go get all these guys you're getting? And it seems like, man, we see the brick wall and we're just driving through it. We don't freaking care. Like, got a quarterback. I mean, shoot, they might go get another quarterback. I don't know what they're going to do, It's wild down there right now, but it's a big, big weekend, Beast. And you got to talk about this because there are a lot of big boys on campus this weekend.
Yeah, so let's get to that. Here's who's in town this weekend. And it's, we're talking about 3 guys out of the top handful of guys that are even available in the portal right now. So you got Oregon State running back Damian Martinez. He's the kid that's probably the top prospect in the transfer portal right now. Unbelievable running back, just a versatile running back, and also a guy that has already sent out a picture of him with his legs up in the sunshine. So I think he's already enjoying his visit. It's Thursday evening, and he actually will start his official visit on Friday, probably when you're listening to this, but he's already in town and enjoying it. Then you get Louisville starting backer Jalen Alderman. That's an important get. We talked about needing to fill that position. We got huge wide receiver Sam Brown. Obviously, Shannon Dawson knows him very well, so that could be a connection. And then Marshall cornerback Diani Hill. He played obviously for Chevis Jackson and for Lance Guidry, so that's one there. And then another guy, I think this just came to light today, the one I sent you, was former Tennessee and Louisville edge Tyler Barron. Pretty good player. that has decided to come down this weekend and have an official visit. So those are the people that are coming to visit this weekend. And then if you're looking at next week, Miami's hoping to get Michigan defensive tackles Simeon Barrow and then the big kid Derek Harmon in next week. Those guys, though, are making some other visits. That I know that Colorado's involved, USC's involved, all the big names involved with those guys. But certainly Miami could use those two big defensive tackles from Michigan State. So, Brandon, it's a full slate. It is on for portal recruiting this weekend and next week at the U.
Yeah, it's a full slate. It's on and popping. There will be a lot of, shaking hands and kissing babies this weekend. I think Martinez is a cane. He canceled his visit to the University of Kentucky. He took the Mississippi State visit. That was as a courtesy to someone that he has close ties with. It's really down to Miami and Arizona, and I just don't think Arizona has the paper to get him to sign on, although he really is considering it. But at the end of the day, he's managed by first round management. They are Miami based.
Based down here, yeah.
And there's already talk with him and Cam, and see, that's the thing. These older guys know each other, man. They talk. They played in the same conference. They played each other. So there are conversations happening. And at the end of the day, I think Martinez is going to be a cane. If he's not a cane, he'll be a Wildcat and he'll go to the desert. Number two, I think you get the receiver because
From
of his
Houston,
ties to Brown. And you've even seen him working out with Cam Ward already.
Yep.
And so I think that's a done deal. The guy from Marshall, who's a corner, the DB from Marshall. I mean, come on, that's pretty well assumed. And then you have the linebacker with all of those ties in the previous times. So I think that's good. The guy that intrigues me is the guy you sent from Tennessee because I don't see the fit there. I think Matt Merritt spent some time, the running back coach at Tennessee, but I'm not sure. And even if he did, he was on the offensive side of the ball. But at the end of the day, that's the most intriguing guy to me because it's like, wow. I mean, you got Ruben Bain, you got Mesidor, you got, Armando Blunt when he comes back. It looks like he's going to be a full go at the start of fall practice. You got a lot of and you got all these new edge guys that are coming in, and now you're still looking for more. So that's the beauty when you have a guy like, a Nigel Lee Kelly and a Jaden Wayne who leave. Jaden Wayne's officialing at Washington this weekend. Nigel Lee Kelly is now at UCF. When you get rid of guys that were talented, but you open up spots. And so now all of a sudden it's like, okay, let's replace guys who are in their first or second years with guys who have, 10 and a half tackles for a loss, 6 sacks, and have played SEC football. You know what I mean? Like, that's way different. And my thing is, I wonder how explosive this can look because it's like you can't catch a break on what they're trying to build. You know what I mean? Like, it looks like it's going to be like the days of old. Like,
yeah, I mean,
I'm supposed to cheer in the press box. Like,
yeah.
I'm already worried about, like, I need to wear a muzzle because, I'm quick to blurt out, like, and I can just see the infuriation of Tim, the AP writer just sitting in front of us like, God, how long do I have to sit behind these guys?
Yeah, you've been known to say some things in the press box. Now, since we've known each other,
what everybody's thinking.
Yeah, but since we've known each other and worked together, it's mostly been I would say constructive criticism would be how I would put it, because we have seen a lot of.
No, I mean not out. I mean, I'm talking about out loud, like, whoa.
Oh no,
you know what I mean, like.
Yeah. Well, like, yeah. No,
I mean?
we've all made those noises for sure. A couple big catches here, a couple big runs there, a couple big tackles there. But you talk about again, totally different time, totally different era. But when Miami was cranking, when every team gets cranking, those ends, right? they're able to, hey, two come out, two go in, right? Two come out, two go in. The same thing. Like when you have that rotation at end, you're cranking when you don't lose a beat with those guys. So it'll be interesting to see. All right, before we wrap this thing up, I got a question to ask you that's completely out of left field, and I don't know if you have a good answer for it. So I may end up editing this out regardless. All right.
Okay.
And NFL draft starts tonight. It's Thursday. Big weekend here. 3 days for the NFL draft. You have in your other life, you know a lot of these kids since they were in middle school.
Yes.
Anyone out there that you're rooting for this weekend to get a shot on the next level? That next year when we're watching the NFL, you're gonna say, "Yeah, I had him at my camp when he was 13."
Yeah. The guy may go as high as number 2.
Oh,
JJ McCarthy.
oh, that's
The
right.
Washington quarterback. He was on Green
Michigan,
Tree.
Michigan quarterback.
Michigan. I'm sorry. He was on Green Tree Field as an 8th grader. Can you picture this? He was on Green Tree Field in my National Middle School Invitational Showcase camp. And at the time, Mark Richt was the head coach. And yeah, he threw. He did very well. He finished second. And couldn't get Miami to give him a scholarship offer. And he went on to lose, I think, 3 games or 2 games at the University of Michigan. And he won a national championship. He went to the college football playoff 3 times. And yeah, he's right before going to high school, he was roaming around Coral Gables, throwing the ball around. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to Mr. JJ McCarthy tonight getting drafted. And he should be off the board by about pick 15, if not earlier. So yeah, that's exciting. I mean, listen, you meet his family; they're amazing people. Beast, and hopefully as we continue to grow our relationship, you'll get involved in some of these things that I do. But I can't tell you the feeling of watching a kid go from 7th, 8th grade, dreaming of things, and then turning on the television and watching that same kid live out his dreams. It's a feeling that it almost drives me to tears, and I'm being honest with you, because
Yeah.
this is why we do football hotbed. This is why we have the platform that we have, to give kids an opportunity and an avenue to be seen, to gain confidence, and to go out. I mean, would we be happy if they go to the University of Miami? Of course. But it's not necessary, and everybody can't go there. You look at a guy like Isaiah Horton. Isaiah Horton, I've known him since he was in 8th grade. I know he can play. I know what he can do. He's done it in my middle school All-American game, and I've had lots of kids on this roster involved with football hotbed from near and far. So I am excited for JJ tonight. Spencer Rattler, who's also been on the football hotbed platform, he was our very first winner. He should be drafted at some point this weekend from South Carolina, who started at Oklahoma. And it's exciting times, man.
Yeah, those stories are always great. I've had a chance to see a bunch of pictures over the years that I've known you of kids that have gone through your camps and going on to do major things in college and obviously to the next level. And I always get a kick, man, when we have conversations and you're like, oh yeah, I knew that kid when he was in 7th grade, or I knew that kid when he was in 8th grade, and it's like, oh man, just to know that you've seen that development has got to be special. All right, we will wish the Canes coaching staff the best of luck as they try to get their next great players in the portal this weekend and next week, and I can almost guarantee that next week we will have an outstanding show for you. I might want to effort a guest or two. We'll see what's going down. What do you got?
Safe travels back from the West Coast for Coach uh, Jason Taylor, and safe travels back from Detroit, Michigan for Coach Kevin Beard. They are on the road, so time for them to get back home, recruit some of these portal guys. Let's go Canes.
By the way, you're talking about two of the best recruiters I've ever seen. Because KB, we know, listen, I've known that dude since he was a freshman. He is all about it. And JT, I mean, you got a Hall of Famer recruiting you. That's a pretty impressive situation. So,
Got that gold jacket, baby.
Yeah, Miami's in a pretty good position with those two at least. All right, Brandon, thanks a lot, man. Enjoy your weekend. To you out there, thanks for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. We will see you when we see you. It is the Real Ones Canes podcast. Peace.